Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thick Radio, the award-winning podcast where we talk about gaining, fetishism, and everything plus size. I am a cute little Czechian, non-dairy, non-lactose alternative to cottage cheese, James.
And I'm just a little black rain cloud hovering under the honey tree.
I want whatever he's smoking.
And that's the Captain Bar, and welcome to another episode of Thick Radio, everyone. Today we have the incredible, the fabulous Adam. Oh, actually, Adam, how do I pronounce your surname? Is it Teryngel? Teryngel?
Siri says Teryngel, but in Czech it's Teryngel. So
Teryngel. Okay.
yeah.
Well, in that case, we're going to go with Adam Teryngel. Hello. How are you, honey?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. We were really looking forward to this one. I feel like as of late, you've really developed a presence online where suddenly everyone's talking, everyone wants a piece of you, and we are very honored to have you on our humble little program. So thank you for making some time for us.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Ah, marvelous. Well, listen, y'all, we have the fabulous Adam with us here today. And if you haven't come across Adam and his content before, you're probably not looking in the right places, quite frankly, because I think any conversation that is right now happening with gay male bodies, to do with food, to do with fitness, shape and form, anything that really has anything to do with what we are looking at as gainers, Adam's face and voice is all over it. So if this is your first time encountering Adam, please make a point, look at the show notes, look at his social medias, look at his training program, and, get into what he's offering, because honestly, it's pretty fierce and fabulous. And I think as a good place to start, what led you into coaching? Like, what experiences have you had in life that have really shaped your views on body image, health, and yeah, what has led you into the path that you're on right now?
So I think this all started when I was young, and I was a dancer. I started as a gymnast, as a dancer, and through that developed a crippling eating disorder. And it was around, I was like 14, 15, 16, and realized that even when I realized that I really had a problem and I needed help, I really couldn't get any because most programs, like health programs, at least here, that are centered around eating disorders, are very strict and have rules to get. So, like, you need to meet a certain criteria to get help or get treatment. And with anorexia specifically, to be admitted, one of the criteria in the DSM-5 is that you need to stop having your period. Hi. Did not. So they were like, we literally like through insurance and everything, we cannot admit you don't fit the criteria. So like we can help somehow, but probably not to get the help that you need. So kind of navigated that through like help from others and myself. And then I found the gym. And what I thought healed me, I think did not help as much as I thought I did at the time. And it kind of just helped me like exchange one eating disorder for like another, and went into like obsessive exercise, not like cardio and losing weight, but into obsessive exercises, trying to bulk up and just have as much muscle, but still be as lean as possible. So I was kind of dealing with that throughout my teens. And when I got like severely injured a couple of times, and I really like my body told me to like step back, I realized that the environment that I was in really isn't built to like help people actually. And I was like, I want to study this. I want to learn as much as I can about this and maybe do it in a way that would make sense for me. And basically all of my practice since then till now, I've kind of just tried to be the person that I needed when I was younger. So all of this is to say that I got into it by that I had to kind of understand. I wanted to understand everything. I wanted to understand the nutrition and the physiology, just everything, just learn as much as I could to figure it out for myself and then use that and try to be the change that I wanted to see in that environment. I guess that is a long answer, but like that's
No, but
kind of it.
like that's the powerful story, and I really appreciate you sharing that there was not just an anorexia that comes from one side of the conversation, but also from the queer side of it. Because I feel like there is not enough of a conversation in broader queer spaces. Like, put a pause on the gaining for a second. In broader queer spaces around how we, in our queerness, still made to feel like we have to adhere to some kind of a body ideal, and how our worth is attached to that body ideal. Whether that's how we accrue sex, how we accrue social monetary value, all of that kind of stuff. And I think it's really important that you acknowledge like that there is a pull kind of in all of those directions. And what you've done ultimately, before we get into the weight of it, is focus on what is ultimately correct for you. How do you have all the tools in your tool belt so that you can really go the direction that you want to go in and feel like you've got full control over that? Because I feel a lot of us don't feel like we're in control and are kind of left to the whims of, I hate to say, grifters in the online space. I think that's the
Yeah.
reason. I tend not to be very trusting of a lot of the gym types that I see on social media, because at this stage of the game, I've heard that fruits, vegetables, eggs, milk, water, sugar, air, blood, everything is bad for you, will kill
All
you,
of it.
will make you fat, and actually you need to cut everything out of your diet.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm just a micro organism just sucking up dead skin cells at this stage. That's my
Just photosynthesizing, just photosynthesis.
You're supposed to subsist on a diet of sugar water, cayenne pepper, lemon juice.
No, no, lemons are bad for you because they're a fruit. Sugar is
The
bad for you because it's
master
sugar.
cleanse. Oh my God, yeah.
Just disgraceful.
You know, if we left it up to these, health and fitness gurus that do this, they'd have us all photosynthesizing rather than eating, it would seem.
or or like munching on twigs and berries and grass and leaves and Christ only knows what else. I've seen those things where people like forage for their own food, like in the forests of California and shit like that. I'm like, that is no.
There's a really famous forager that I actually like that lives in Columbus, Ohio, and I kind of like her though.
Oh, is it the Black Forager?
Yes,
Okay,
I
yes,
well, we
love it.
love
yes.
She's an
her.
We love her.
Ohioan.
Yeah, I think she was.
Yeah,
I think she moved, but I think she's from originally. I think she's from Columbus. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Good luck and don't die. She's great. Love what she does. If you happen to be
well,
listening
yeah. I
slash
mean,
watching,
if
thank you for what you do. But
So, in this vein, how do you personally define health, and how much of that is tied to body size, Adam?
That is, oh my God, that is a loaded question. I think that I still, even through the work that I've done, I think I still haven't unpacked all of my, like, not internalized, I think that's not the right word, but like instilled in me fat phobia and sort of this notion that you have a moral imperative to be healthy. And I'm trying to kind of unlearn that, and it is easier said than done, and especially like I can preach it, but then when it comes to me suddenly like the rules are different. So I think that the answer I would give anyone would be, I think health has multiple aspects and it comes from both the physical and the mental, and it's important to keep the balance. Yes, that is, I think that is like the
That
no,
sounds
but honest,
reasonable, to be sure.
yeah, but I think if I were to be like brutally honest, I think that health doesn't need to mean like that your clean of bill is healthy, because everyone health does look different, and sometimes you just need meds, and mental health plays an issue. And like I don't think that health should be the like physical health should be the number one thing that everyone should be measured up against. And I hate how
mm,
it's weaponized against especially bigger people when mental health is still so neglected here in the Czech Republic. Like getting therapy or just any sort of mental health conversation still isn't nowhere near what it needs to be. So before we start attacking physical health, I think we should really focus on like people actually having good access to healthcare, good access to mental health care. And then once we know that those things are kind of set, then we can maybe start blaming individuals for their health outcomes or like give them lectures.
It always makes me think of the conversation around abortions and how there are so many people who wish to protest a woman's right to have an abortion. They believe themselves to be pro-life and that that's what's most important. And to those people, I think a very common adage is you want these children to be born, but you are not making efforts to have these children fed, clothed, healthy, educated, looked after. You are
Exactly.
you are not interested in the sustained and long-term reality of this thing that you are insisting on. The same thing with health. If you're insisting that a fat person lose this weight because it's bad for their health, why aren't you invested in the changing up of our food systems, making groceries cheaper, making healthier food options more accessible? Why are you not interested in better access to healthcare? Why are you only interested in the weight loss? It sounds to me more like you're interested in the realm of control over this one aspect of the human identity rather than anyone's long-term sustained well-being. So,
Not to like go dark this early into it, but like I
oh no,
think
please do. Yes.
I think the cruelty is the point, and it comes to like with everything. Like there's people that believe that homeless people should be criminalized and put in prisons. So we already believe that people should be provided free housing, but in the most extreme and most punishable way possible, which is proven to be the most expensive, instead of just like setting them up with an actual home so that they could, start their life over or whatever. I think cruelty is the point in a lot of these people's logics. And I think with fat people, it's the same. It's not the health. I think it is they want the punishment. They want to have a reason to
Because if you don't
punish
feel
you.
bad about yourself, if you don't feel like shit, you won't spend money. If you don't feel like you are a pathetic, worthless sack of shit, you won't go out and buy whatever product they're going to push in your face, any or lifestyle. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all about pushing product.
And also tied to the religiosity of it all. The church invented the moralistic idea of to be chaste and to restrict one's eating. I will always shout this book from the rooftops. Sabrina Strings, Fearing the Black Body, talks about how moralism and weight and health and value were all very firmly tied together with the emergence, especially of Protestantism and everything else. And so this is something that it's interesting how many people these days do not believe in any kind of spiritual identity necessarily. They would say themselves to be staunchly atheist. And yet, if you look at the ways in which they morally attack fat people, or the ways in which they will say things like kink doesn't belong at Pride and queer people are perverted, even though they themselves are queer, it reeks of the same kind of self assured moral imperialism. It's part of a fascism that says, I am right, you are wrong, and you must change because of some inherent idea that we all agree on, right? Don't look too closely at the details, but we all agree on it, right? This is how it is. So it's very interesting, the efforts that have to be made to learn to unpick. And that I feel very much ties in with your journey, with your story. It wasn't enough to be a dancer and deal with an eating disorder one way, you go the other way. And it's still the same thing because the systems are still trying to enforce an idea. And you really have to take the power into your own hands to learn in order to really rescue yourself from such a situation.
And I think for a lot of people, it is just so difficult to unwrap all of these layers of fucked up systemic issues that it's just easier to think, oh, fat people are lazy and disgusting and they all need to be put on like in concentration camps on diets. Like, I think that it's just you have to do so much work, and it is so difficult to have these conversations without bringing up all of these other things. Like you cannot have a conversation about weight and weight stigma without also bringing out class and race and status and just money in general, and capitalism and colonialism. And I so it is really difficult to talk to people who haven't done the work or like are not super aware yet of like all these issues, and they think it's like black and white, and it's just, oh, it's just calories in, calories out, like just put the fork down, fatty. Like it's not. So to kind of tie back to the question about health, I think we're being taught a lot of things about health that we don't understand, or that the medical system thinks that they understand, but they don't. A lot of it, and I will always talk about this, like correlation is not causation. So a lot of the things that people attribute to being fat or being bigger is correlation that has so many other factors in it. A and B, stigma and biases play such a huge role, even in medical research and medical treatment, that even just how we treat fat people is going to influence the health outcomes that they have. So, and it's kind of like self-feeding system. Like you treat them bad, they don't get healthcare, or they get bad healthcare, so they have bad outcomes. That kind of makes another generation of doctors, gives them permission to treat them even worse. And it's kind of that same thing. So I think there's just so much to unpack that I think that this obsession over optimization and health that is in our culture right now, besides fatness, like I think our culture on like wellness and optimization is being pushed. Like you need to do everything perfectly, and from morning routines, evening routines, food routine, like everything has to be the most optimized version, that we kind of forget what the point of being alive is, I
I
think.
notice a lot of maxing trends. Like every time
Right?
somebody's doing something, it's like, oh, I'm maxing. Like, what the fuck does that
Huge.
even mean?
Like someone says that fiber is good for you, suddenly everyone's eating 100 grams of fiber and they're fiber maxing. Someone said that, like, we can't just be normal. Like, why
No,
can't we
no,
just
Yeah.
be?
nothing can be normal anymore. Everything has to be hyped up and extreme. And like,
Mm,
like I can remember being a kid in the 90s and like when people would attach these extreme ideologies to things, like it was again for pushing products, but it was mostly about like like being extreme was just like being athletic, being sporty, being all the like uh motocross and BMX was big in the 90s, so it was mostly that. And I've forgotten what the hell I was trying to say with this.
well, I think a
But
point to go with here, we're back to the point on you're not allowed to simply be as you are. We did an episode, I think it was back in either season 3 or season 4, with Riddick talking about you are enough as you are. And I think, to talk about the gaining for a second, it's a challenge because ultimately, the notion of being a gainer is to say, I am one thing right now. I would like to become another thing, typically a larger thing. And so you put in the effort to become the larger thing. We have our goals. And yeah, maybe you haven't hit your goal yet and you still want to continue to your goal. But how do you find the balance of going, I'm not where I want to be right now, but where I am right currently is also okay. And it is okay to be at rest to some regard with where I'm at. You're allowed to say this is sufficient while also finding navigable space for more. And that's a very hard thing to find in the gainer community. It is often framed as a more is more is more. And now you've hit your goal. What's your next goal? You need to keep pushing. You need to keep growing. You need to do something new. With muscle, it looks to be about the same. It's not enough to be swole to be big. You've got to go from weightlifter to powerlifter to bodybuilder to this. When it comes to the queerness of it all, I attended Fetish UK as an event not too long ago, and one of the big conversations with a lot of the participants is a problem within kink broadly is the way in which people assume that you must constantly be improving on your kink. It's not enough to wear a leather cap. You've got to wear the leather trousers and the boots and the vest, and you've got to get into the boot blacking, and you've got to make sure that you're running for a title. Do you have a sash? Why are you not running for a sash? What are you doing? And you just find that all of
oh
this
God, you
is
just
so
triggered a lot of
exhausting.
trauma for me.
But you know what I'm saying? Like all of this is already so exhausting that like, ooh, how do
It's
you?
James, it's almost as if the capitalistic pressure has permeated every corner of our
Every facet of
society.
your life.
goalpost keeps moving. How can you ever you can't achieve anything because the goalpost is moving faster than you can.
Yeah, I often like to liken it to the Lovecraftian void.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just like a black hole, and it keeps demanding more and more and more of you. And that's what's so horrifying about the void, that it's a bottomless pit.
Yeah.
Now,
That's why like the motto that I say a lot is like being happy with yourself is literally the biggest form of anarchy that you can do right
it's
now.
rebellion.
It
It is
is rebellion.
absolutely
It
sticking it to the
is.
system and saying, I am enough.
Yeah. I have enough. I don't need a new car. I don't need a better car. I don't need the newest phone every year. I don't need a bigger place. Like I don't like having enough or being happy, like this system and religion as well. I think religion and capitalism like don't have anything to offer content human being.
Oh, no, because it's never enough. You always
No,
Yeah.
want more.
it's always
But
addressing those who feel a deep lacking of something within
Yeah.
themselves. When that lacking usually is happiness and self love. And speaking about the self, you talk about trusting, or rather building trust with one's own body. What does building trust in your body mean in practice?
One part is the actual physicality of your body, being knowing that your body can do things and can think like kind of take care of things for you. So I know that why I'm working out, I'm not working out to look a certain way, or that's not the whole part of it. It is to be able to be independent until like when I'm old, to be able to get off the couch, to be able to, carry myself the way that I want to and stuff. So in one way, building strength and building that feeling of like, I know that I can rely on my body when I need to. And I feel like with, again, the rise of whatever's happening in the world and fascism and stuff, like being able to protect yourself, being able to have a strong physique is a thing that kind of puts my mind at a little bit more of an ease. Having a presence, having muscle, being strong is one thing for at least for me. And then I think the mental part of it, like knowing that your body can ask for things, and if you listen to it and give it to it, it will be happy. I feel like, again, coming back to the culture of optimization, I think we've kind of been fed that there is a routine that you need to trick your body into following. Like eating 3 meals a day is capitalism. Like that's not been a thing ever. Sleeping 8 hours a day in like one chunk, again, not a thing before like industrialization. So I think a lot of our bodies were not designed to follow this structure that we have right now. And that might be part of why we feel kind of out of it and we feel out of touch with our bodies. So we've been taught to like not listen to the cues, like eat when it's time to eat, not when your body is hungry, sleep when it's time to sleep, not when your body is tired. So building trust in your body that way is taking a step back from these rigid schedules or prescribed things that you were taught to follow and be like, what do I need right now? Like, what does my body feel like it needs right now? Am I actually eating because I'm hungry? Am I eating because I'm told to, or because I think it's time to eat? So I think building that self-trust in knowing that your body, if you listen, will ask for things and you do not need to overcomplicate and kind of beat it into submission is that other part of it for me.
see, I find that fascinating. I would love if, I don't know, I'd have to see if I can find some data on how human circadian rhythms have changed since industrialization.
So
I'd love to
humans,
know that.
until then, what a lot of cultures for a lot of the time, for a very, very big chunk of time, that was something called biphasic sleep. So people would go to bed, let's say 7, 8 p.m., sleep until like maybe 2-ish. Then would be time to wake up. They like fucked around, like they had parties, they ate, they taught, told stories, just whatever, hung out for a couple of hours and then went to bed and then slept a little bit longer. And if you look at primates, if you look at most animals, no animal really sleeps 8 hours in one stretch. So that's what we used to do. And that's what made sense for a lot of people. And then we just said, no, this is not productive. And we kind of started doing this. So, I mean, of course,
Yeah.
look into it, but in a lot of cultures, like if you look at ancient Greece, even here in Europe, like people a lot of the times do not sleep in one chunk, and then usually they have like one sleep, then like it's fun times, and then another sleep.
Oh
So
yeah, people will tease the Spanish about the concept of a siesta. Like, why would you take a break in the middle of the workday? Motherfucker, it's hot. We don't want to work right now. We're taking rest under the fan with a cool beverage while it cools down slightly. Let a bitch have rest.
yeah, look
Even
at
things like,
China. Look at China. Like they have like not mandated, but like after lunch, even in big offices, they turn the lights off and they have nap time for 45 minutes after lunch, and the whole office just sleeps.
people just take rest. What are we learning now? So many cultures pre-colonization had multiple gender identities, right? So many cultures have evidence of the way in which we used to function. And the fact is, we can trace the 8 hours a day, 40-hour work week back to the guy Ford who invented the automobile. And he was like, well, I need people who are going to work that. And now the world has just taken that on. But we can remember that. We have this like as a date in our calendar. And we don't need to keep doing it if we don't want to do it. Like the body wants what the body wants. And to that point, that query of like how you develop that sense of being in tune with your body, when I think about my gainer journey, being in touch with my body has been the biggest helper in figuring out what works well for my body. People will recommend and suggest, like, oh, try this food combination that might help you gain weight. Baby, the body said that don't work, so don't do that. Don't try to enforce that if that's not what's gelling with you. Do something different. People will say, oh, you have to do this. You don't have to. Like, you can continue to experiment and figure things out. And like, if it works, it works. It's unconventional. It didn't work for other people. Okay, cool. But it works for you, so keep going. Like, sometimes, as you say, it's not that hard. We don't have to overcomplicate it with, does it look like what someone else is doing? Does it match what someone else said was the correct thing? No, but that doesn't have to mean that it's wrong, you know?
James,
Absolutely.
James, is all of this outreach about the fact that we were insisting cottage cheese was actually good for you?
Uh,
Next question.
Well, actually, moving along. Adam, have you changed your mind about anything since you first started speaking publicly about body image and self-acceptance? Is there anything that you say that like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that?
yes, and I think health is the biggest part about it. That I think when I first started, I've only really started this account and this kind of journey a couple months ago, but I've been vocal on other platforms, never really this publicly or this in this big of a sense, but it's still I've tried to put this out there in my practice, and I think for the longest time I preached this message of like it's okay to be big as long as you're healthy, and I don't believe in that anymore. Not in, and I don't want this to be like clipped and taken out of context, but I think I'm trying to unlearn this moral imperative to be healthy or to be the good fatty trope. So I think that it is okay to be what you are in, and if you're okay with it and you love yourself and you're not hurting anyone else, then literally do what you need to do. And I think that is the biggest thing that I learned, I think, from the gainer community is that I had the hardest time swallowing or kind of getting my head around is body autonomy in a way that like you have body autonomy even if you want to kind of like destroy it, or if you want to follow things that like are not necessarily the best for you, you are still allowed to do that, and you still deserve dignity and you still deserve respect. And I think that is the biggest part that I think I kind of came around on. Not 100%. I don't fully understand how I feel about it myself, but it's something that I no longer preach. And I would rather err on the side of like, I'd rather like let people do what they do and just, yes, you have your body and your body, your choice for, and that goes on everything rather than
Mm,
dictate how anyone lives their life. I think that is the biggest part.
that point on respecting people's autonomy is so important because, and I think this is the thing, whenever people outside of the space tend to ask me personally, like, oh, but you're a gainer, isn't that super unhealthy? Like, I might jack off to fantasies of extreme weight sizes, but baby, I'm not necessarily gonna get there. I think the
Yeah.
average weight on Grommer, they figured this out a couple of years ago, was barely 300 pounds. Like, there are some people who
Oh,
are some
barely.
barely, and there are some people who are some far greater sizes. And I don't think there's any shame in any goal, the attainment of the goal, if it's fantasy or not, because I think that's the point, is that it's all fine. It's a question of if you want to do the thing, you should be given the freedom and the space to do the thing. But
Yeah.
people reject the fear of, oh, but what if? But actually, it's probably not that real an issue. It's like when you look at the BDSM community and you think, but isn't everyone just looking to commit sexual assault and every? No, everyone's looking to have like a little bit of a fantasy, but it's all consent, it's all fun. And like People are managing themselves. People are looking after themselves. So I think like what you're saying there, it's coming at it from this angle of a collaboration. You're thinking, well, maybe what your goal is not necessarily what my goal is, but where do we find that common ground? You're looking to garner some kind of help from me. What might that look like in a way that I think I can consent to? That makes sense, like any other relationship. What does it look like when equal minds come together and figure out the right way forward, you know? So to that point, I want to ask what I feel is a bit of an obvious question, but we're a podcast that of course celebrates gaining and fetishism, so I feel like we have to ask the question. Are you a gainer yourself? And if not, what kind of exposure have you had to the gaining and fetist communities?
I'm gonna sound like a cliche, but I don't like labels. I think that the gainer community is something that literally saved my life at some point. I'm going to say it that way. Have a lot of problems with it because, as any community, there is toxic parts of it and stuff. But I wouldn't necessarily think that I am a gainer in the true sense. I think that gaining and gainer lifestyle, let's call it that way, was something that made a lot of things in my head click and made sense. And especially during that harder part of my life, saved me. So I will never say no of like I'm not a gainer, I'm not part of this community because I am, but not maybe in the sense that everyone else might identify with. I'm not trying to to make this sound like a cop out, but
No,
I think there is room for nuance there, and um
absolutely.
I one part what I would hate is that, or like why I'm hesitant sometimes to talk about gaming in general is I still fear that it kind of undermines the message that I'm putting out, if I'm fully honest, because I feel like once people like hear that, they kind of stop paying attention and they're like, oh, but you like being fat, so it doesn't count. Like body
Yeah.
positivity from you doesn't count.
And it's worth mentioning because people like to paint in broad strokes and are
Yes.
very black and white with their thinking. I mean, that's part of my sort of connection with the pod. It's to show that there are different ways in which we engage with the concept of gaining and body image and size. A lot of us have gone through some kind of transformation journey in some direction in order to build up a bigger, stronger,
Mm,
happier body in the ways that make sense to us. And it doesn't look one way or another necessarily.
yeah. There's
Exactly.
multiple forms, multiple materia. Obviously fat is the most common perception within that, but cap is a great example of muscle gaining. And as you say, there's room for nuance there. There are a lot of guys in the broader bear community who are such happy, proud bears who they were not bears by nature. They went through a transformation. And ostensibly, what is the difference between a guy who does that and a gainer? I'd argue nothing other than a label. You've got BBWs, you've got people who celebrate their dad bod, you've got people who call themselves thick, curvy, husky, people within the body positivity, fat liberation movements who deliberately and thoroughly express their size and their shape and they eat more to celebrate. It's an act of politic. And is that not a gainer? So as you say, there is more to the story than just I am this thing and it looks one type of way. I think there are actually way many more of us who could be considered a part of this broader concept of plus-sized, joyful individual than just gainers. I don't think gainers, people who add that label to themselves, own that idea. I think there are way many more people who can do. And as you say, Cap, I hope that this podcast really is a vehicle for all of that expression. At least that's what we try to find with people because we're out here and we want to have those conversations. Period.
That's great. So yeah, and a lot like in that sense, I think the closest to what I would identify with the traditional like gainer lifestyle, I would say probably muscle gainer,
Mhm.
uh, who doesn't mind the fat gains that come along with it.
Mhm.
But I think especially lately in my journey, where I am right now is still trying to, or like is more so trying to enjoy life as it is without the pressure on weight and when weight gain. Because I think for myself, the weight gain itself and the numbers is what triggers that obsessive behavior. And so for me, I knew it went one way sometime in my life and then the other a different time in my life. So I think I learned what my triggers were and like tried to navigate that space. And there are times of the year or times in my life where I am more inclined to like eat a lot and have fun with it. And then there are times where I don't. And this is where I think for me, what listening to your body like plays the biggest role is liberating yourself from that label of you are a gainer. Let's say you're a gainer. You must always want to gain weight. You must always do this.
Yes, yes, because maintainers exist.
Yes, exactly. So trying to take a step back from that and preaching the message of like, right now, I am exercising and eating as much as I want to, as much I find fun. Whether that makes me lose a little bit of weight or gain a little bit of weight, that is just how it's going to be. But it's not going to dictate how I act. How I act is going to dictate how I look in that way.
No, certainly. And from one big beefy boy to another, while we're addressing the elephants in the room, let's say, what has your experience been like navigating through fitness spaces as a plus size queer man?
Tough. Honestly, tough. So you know that. So even when I started college, I was already like over 220, which I know isn't huge, but also in the Czech Republic, that I was still at least 20, 30 pounds heavier than any of my classmates at any point. So already started as a bigger guy, which like looking back, I still like I felt big then, and then I see the pictures, I was like, I'm such a baby. But
The
uh,
perspective really changes how you look back at yourself, right?
exactly. But I definitely starting to work and starting to like starting out as a coach, always had to kind of make space for myself. Like trying to fight or claw to get my place. I think I am lucky enough that I guess either have the mental weather or was like or am privileged enough that I always kind of could. But there was a lot of no's in my life, especially in the fitness industry, like wanting to change gyms when I started working, and them literally saying, "We will not hire you unless like if you look like that."
Wow.
Wow.
And that was
Some might call that
and
discriminatory,
yeah,
perhaps.
and that is you know, I'm in the like 220s, 230s then. So what would they say to me now? um,
But even
Right.
as you say, like, it didn't matter that you were a fit person, that you had the knowledge that you could do the thing. Visually, they decided you don't look how we think you should look, and that is the deciding factor. Like, your appearance alone, chopped.
yes. But I'm also a petty bitch and I cannot take no for an answer. So I will always find a way to do it. Literally. So when I couldn't find a place that would have me, I created my own spaces and I created opportunities for myself and worked with people that wanted to work with me, worked with people that aligned, at least somewhat aligned with what I try to do. And I think sadly, the fitness industry, like it had a brief, like okay movement. Like I would say like 8 to 10 years ago, where like body positivity was kind of at its peak. I think in like the early 2010s, where it was a little bit more acceptable to be bigger and happy. But now, again, descending into that body fascism and manosphere and gyms definitely having a bigger cultural impact. Like when I was in high school or in college, not as many kids went to the gym. Now the gyms are full of kids as young as like 13, 14, 15, and gym in general I think plays a much bigger role in young people's lives than it ever did before. And with that I think comes more rigidity again, sadly, where there's one kind of ideal that is prescribed, and if you can't fit it, you feel like you don't belong. But yeah, I think the my experience has always been like, okay, if you say no, I'll find someone who says yes. And if I can't find out someone who says yes, I will make it happen. If that answers your question.
Yes, no, that your perseverance and pushing through is such a beautiful thing to witness, especially against such strong ideological currents of like how things need to be and looking a certain way and being a certain way. I just bouncing off of what you say before we move on. I think it's funny when we talk about like conformism and these like universal standards that are so rigid. When I'm ironically looking at people in the gym who use terrible form. It's like, oh, so you can't, so you conform, everything to a T body wise, but you can't do your motions properly. There's like a big cognitive dissonance there that doesn't make a lot of sense to
Well,
me.
well, also think about the clavicular situation that's just going on. This boy is in trouble with the law because of everything he's been flogging, and the man got interviewed by like a mid-40s, just average dad on Australian television, and everyone went, "This man who has never seen the inside of a gym in his life has outmogged this 21-year-old because he didn't spend all his time trying to adhere to trends. He just looks like an average dude who happens to fit a certain ideal, and that alone was enough that people were like, oh wow, he's way more attractive than clavicular. And like the dude's fan base is peeling away because now they're like, oh, we never needed to do all this. And it's like, yeah.
But have you seen him like the very recent clip? I think that's from like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. I think he was in France or somewhere in Europe, and he went to a bar, and there's like a big, beefy, actually masculine, whatever, like
Mhm.
he's trying to be looking, who absolutely just makes him look like a complete twink and like wraps his arms around him, mocked him, and like that. Did you see that clip? Like that, you should
Yes.
look it up. That is so funny
Oh, it
to
was so
me.
Gratifying.
good.
That was
Yeah.
really funny to me.
So, have you come to any revelations over the years regarding gender and how you are perceived in the world?
Oh, that is the biggest one for me, I think. As far as like all of my body journey, I think the thing that I still struggle with the most is like internalized misogyny and maybe homophobia a little bit as well, which I I don't looking bigger and being bigger, being muscular definitely is gender affirming for me. And if I were to say that I still have any insecurities, it would be stuff related to not the performance of gender that I would like. And I can, I know I've done enough work that I know that most gender is performance and that it doesn't mean anything, et cetera, et cetera. Still haven't done enough work to not want it or like to not feel bad about it. So like not being able to grow a beard, one thing for me. And that's something that I'll probably just genetically never will be able to do and have to be okay with. So I think a big part of my journey of especially the muscle gain and just the size in general comes from not wanting to be viewed as feminine, not or like wanting to look more masculine and not as like weak or like I think it was sort of like an armor, especially growing up a dancer, skinny kid, like really flamboyant. I think a part of it was I will be the guy that I need to protect me kind of way. So that gender part of it is still something that I struggle with. And if there is any, like, if there is a guy that I compare myself to, even though I try not to, is usually less so about his body, but more so about the perceived masculinity of that man and me feeling inferior in that way. So revelations, I don't know if there's any revelation other than like I know that's something I struggle with, and know that something that I need to unlearn and kind of unpack, but I don't know if that's something that's ever really going to go away because it's just so instilled in me and my ideals and like you're influenced by media and everything like that's you're supposed to be a man like that or there's one type of look that a real man has to have that I just cannot unpack or seem to unpack for myself at least. But I try to do the work and I think I'm doing a lot better than I used to for sure and finding my own worth and value outside of masculinity and knowing that it's still mostly performance anyway. and what even is a man? Like, what is masculinity? Like stuff like
Right.
that. I'm unpacking that for myself. And like when I don't even know the answer to that question myself, I was like, why am I then trying to answer it? Like, why am I trying so hard and hating myself for not knowing the answer or for not fitting the answer if I don't even know what it is yet?
Holy, not to sound like a manosphere blogger by any means, but I would posit the idea that perhaps not all masculinity is inherently toxic, which is perhaps why we need the adjective toxic in front of toxic masculinity.
Oh yeah.
As
Yeah, for
as
sure.
as queer people, men who like other men, and men who like men of size, perhaps there's something positive about being drawn to safety and
Yeah.
abundance and strength. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. These things are
Mm.
desirable to us for a reason, and maybe we can celebrate those things where we see them, but not disparage others who may vary in some way.
Can I say something here on the notion of the need for all of this? If we think about, bear with me, Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? The whole premise of the original show is all the airbenders were wiped out except for the Avatar. And thankfully, throughout the series, we see the return of the air nomads and this apparent balance that returns to the world, right? And the story that it honestly takes such a long time to see balance return to a space. I think about what we offer as people who are gaining weight. And again, regardless of your motivations, your specific goals, forget it a sec, right? Like all of us are on that same trajectory. That is something missing in the world, an unpacked idea that size can be okay. And I think to myself, in a society that for a very long time, and it's not just a trend that's been around since the 90s, it's something that has existed for a number of hundreds of years, all the way back to Botticelli, all the way back to the origin point in which size and moral value are started to be gathered together. We are starting to see this idea that fatness is not an okay thing in the world. And we are now seeing, as groups of people, moving forward towards size as an okay thing. And I wonder if that's a part of our human balance, that we are meant to have a wave of people who, by nature, want to get larger and occupy the space of size. As you were saying, Cap, the idea of maybe through that narrative, we are meant to explore and celebrate the idea of being larger people who occupy what does it mean to be masculine in a larger body, feminine in a larger body, protectors, safe guardians in larger bodies, something that is very visceral, very visual, very apparent. I think many of us, when we've explored with other individuals, what was the origin point of your desire to gain? So many of us attributed that sense of, I saw someone who was large, they took up space, they occupied an idea, they were the epitome of masculinity, the epitome of something that as a child, it predates everything. And yet I looked at them and I went, oh, that's what it is. Questions I didn't even know that I had in my mind were answered the first time I saw a fat dude in the world. And I went, that is the answer to the question that is, what do I want in a situation? And therefore I go and I pursue the answer. So I think there is, in some kind of psychic way in this world, a need for us to exist. And I wonder if that is, you were saying before, Adam, do you even know the question if you're trying to find out the answer? Maybe that is the answer, is you're working on it and trying to figure it out. It's a something where it's been so lost in our world that we are desperately trying to find it back. And I think you're one of those people who are clearly on a journey to help all of us uncover that for ourselves.
And I think it's really funny, like discussing this with my clients and with friends, that I think fatness and size, for me, growing up, I've always associated with like masculinity. Like for me, a masculine guy is big, like is big, is fat, is strong. But a lot of guys that I coach or that I talk to don't like their fat bodies because they feel like it's feminine. And I think that's really interesting that like the same thing exists in this dichotomy of like someone views their body as masculine, where I look at it and I see it as like like as an affirmation of masculinity. And I just think that's really interesting in that way, where like one thing can be viewed as both things at the same time, almost. It just depends on how we kind of interpret it in our brains.
So, Adam, do you feel like someone can genuinely accept their body while also wanting to change it? Where do you see the line between self improvement and self rejection, perhaps?
I think it is possible because I think you can ultimately accept that the body that you've been given is the body that you've been given. But wanting improvement, whatever that means to you or to anyone, isn't necessarily disparaging it, I don't think. Like, I can love my house, but I can put better windows on it, or I can paint it the same way. Like, people, when they criticize again capitalism, they're like, but you're participating in it. I was like, Sure, but I can make it better." Like, I think that if you're coming at it from a place of like, I love my body, love what it does for me, I accept it as it is, but I'm going to try and act, or like give it things that should maybe get me to a place where I am more confident in it, or more more at home within it, is not a bad thing. But I think there is so much nuance to it. Like, I think that it is really worth kind of exploring and really thinking about why you want these things and why you want your body to look a certain way. Is it the societal pressures? Is it your performance of masculinity? Is it whatever else? And if you unpack it and you're okay with, oh, I still like live in the world, and I want to affirm my gender, I want to do this and that, and I think it genuinely will make me happy, then pursue it. Then pursue it. But I think that it should be okay to like stay where you are, and you should be okay with, like, even if my body never changes, I should still do the things that make it feel good. So I don't think that changing the way that you look should be the primary reason you exercise, or that you change the way you eat. It can be a wonderful side product or byproduct of it. And kind of like look at it from this way. Like, I want bigger arms, and I think exercise is good for your body, and I want to be strong, and I want to focus on what my body can do. And if you focus on what body can do, most of the time your body will look or start to get closer to looking like the body that does that. So I think it can coexist, but I think it is really, really important to kind of introspectively think about your goals and your position within that, and unpacking as much of these like internalized issues as you can. Because if you don't, then it is literally just like chasing something that will never make you happy, or just putting a band-aid on an issue that will not fix it in like ultimately.
No, certainly. The way we frame these things carries so much significance, I believe. And in my own experience, it's very much been better to frame things from a place of love, from I love myself, so I want to help myself in this way, rather than I need to change myself because I'm inadequate. And it's a small shift, like you mentioned, it's a very fine line, but it can really set the tone for, well, everything, frankly, in your life. How you look at it, how you think about it, and where your motivation stems from can completely change your experience in pursuits of trying to help, whether it's one's environment, like your house, like you're saying, or modifying something about your body or your habits, perhaps.
I think what is really also important to say with anyone like recovering or struggling with body image issues, body image like disorders or eating disorders, is that it is really, really difficult to navigate this behavior. Because if you are, I'm not going to say one thing is harder than the other, but if you're addicted to drugs or alcohol, you can not ever do it again. Like, you can stop drinking and never do it, and you will live. With exercise and food, you have to do it to stay healthy and to kind of live the life that you want to live. So if all of this, I don't think that it will ever be fully fixed. You will always be walking on blade of a knife, kind of trying not to fall off, kind of like trying to find a balance of, I'm doing this because it's good for me, and because it makes me happy, and I'm not chasing something, or I'm not trying to fix something. But you will ultimately always like overcorrect or fall back. And I think in life, what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to teach my clients is to kind of make the oversteps kind of more close to, like, you're not making big swings, and ultimately maybe down the line you actually can walk in a straight line and find balance that way. But I think it's absolutely okay and expected that, especially as someone who deals with body image issues, you can start with the best intentions, and 2 months down the line you will catch yourself, oh, I'm pushing myself too hard, or I'm working past exhaustion, or I'm working out past injury. And then that's where you're like, oh, pull back, girl. Like you're that those are we don't want to go back there. So I think that's really important to say, that it is not something that you figure out for yourself once, that this is something that you have to keep checking in with yourself if what you're doing is still in line with the goals that you have, but still also trying to maintain that health or healthy mindset.
So, Adam, what is your approach when someone comes to you as a coach and a trainer and they want to gain weight? Has that happened yet? And if it hasn't, how would you handle it?
Yeah, that actually a big chunk of my clients, especially starting early on with this Instagram and like with this journey, has been starting out have been people who are actively trying to put on size, both fat and muscle. So I think my approach to it is he just made a stupid meme about it, of that scene in Mean Girls where the mom brings out the like mocktails, and Lindsay Lohan asks if there's alcohol in it, and you're like, no, but if you want some, I'd rather you do it in the house. Like, what I want to be for people is to be a safe space that if you are a gainer who feels really out of excluded out of that fitness space, but you maybe do want to make healthier choices, or make choices, or start working out without the pressure on weight loss. I want to be that safe space for anyone with any sort of goal, because I would rather you do it with someone who has, the education and experience to help you get there safely, rather than navigate it by yourself or take advice from grifters on the internet. So I have experienced it, and I've worked with people who are trying to gain, and I try to help them do it in a way that is going to have the least impact either on their health or on their, I guess, like, independence. Because like I've worked with guys that are relatively big who want to work out to maintain mobility, to maintain independence. So there is fitness goals for everyone, and I worked with people of all sizes, guys that are at like 110 pounds who want to put on a couple, to guys who are in 4 to 500 range who still want to be active and still want to be as healthy as they can be. And that is, I think, a big part of this health issue that we talked about. Is health, I think, is a lot about behaviors, not about state of being. So even overweight people who are active and who like train probably are going to have better health outcomes than people who are in the normal, I don't hate that word, but normal range of weight, who are inactive. So even if you don't lose weight and you are active, that's probably still doing the best for you. And if we take that gainer aspect out of it, whoever's listening, losing weight in general is almost impossible in the long run, especially losing like a big, significant amount of weight. Most people who lose over 50 pounds regain it within 5 years and then some. So I think focusing on the behaviors, no matter what your goals are, is always going to be a really important part of it. So whether you want to gain weight, whether you want to lose weight, there is no guarantee that you actually will. Your body has a set point. There is, like, you have a lot of predispositions that are going to affect how your body looks. And even if I give you like my eating plan and my workout plan, that will not ever guarantee that you will look like me down the line. So if we focus on the behaviors first and foremost, I think that is the baseline, and then whatever happens on top of that is just a fun bonus. That,
Certainly.
that's kind of it.
No, but like it's big, and I think we cover this on the podcast all the time. There are no simple and straight answers to this shit. One, because human bodies are just different anyways, and so genetically, biologically, things are going to be wildly different from person to person. But as we've been uncovering, we're all of us subject to the same body fascism, the same grifter culture, the same bullshit that's out there, that it's mucking things up and making things very confusing. So this is big, y'all.
And before we move on, for the record, going back to Mean Girls, this is all to say that Adam's not like other trainers. He's a cool trainer.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. And I'm sure that there are many, many gentlemen who would love to be the dog chewing on your titty.
I was gonna say my tits are just as hard.
Your tits are just as hard. Fantastic.
That's
That's
right.
that's
We love a
fantastic.
titty moment.
And when I do my holiday to Czechia, I'll do a little just a confirmation update. That yes, everyone, Adam Teryngel's titties are as hard as suspected with my shattered teeth. It'll be absolutely fantastic. Now, I would like to ask you here as we begin to round out the episode. Obviously, we talked about a lot, and we were just covering that there is still so much. There's still so much to be discussed. What do you hope people will better understand about bodies, health, and human behavior after our conversation today?
That everything has so much nuance that you really, really should never judge anyone for any choice that they make because you never know, A, what they're going through. And even if you try to, like, there is just so much we don't know about health and about medicine and about mental health and about everything else that we should not make harsh judgments and we should just let people exist if they are happy. And I think that is like the biggest overlining thing that I think people should take away from this.
Fantastic. And
I
as our
kept it short for once.
Very nice, very nice.
Amazing. And as our conversation draws to a close, we like to ask this question toward the end of our interviews. What food gives you life, and what food brings you peace?
Before we start recording, we were talking about American and European food and food that gives me life and kills me that I can't have it more often because I don't go to the US, especially now, as much as I would want to. Uh, Canes. I like Canes. Canes. I want. I like if I could, I would just eat Canes every day for the rest of my life. If I could, Caniac combo with sweet tea and extra toast. Like that is something that literally, like, no matter what happens in my life, it would cheer me up. It would like
That's some dedication to chicken strips.
that just that's something about it that I just love. And if I could, I guess, choose one thing to eat for the rest of my life, it would be a toss up between like a good Chipotle bowl or Cane's. So stuff that I can't have on the daily because I'm here most of the time, but that is definitely something that would give me life and I wish I had more of it. And food that brings me peace. I think on the daily, like here, I eat really boring. And I think that is, again, not to make the answer too long, but I think that is something that a lot of people don't kind of realize about people that they look up to on the internet, whether that's fitness and like if it's fitness influencers or anyone else. Most people don't overcomplicate things. Most people's success story is really boring. Like they eat boring meals, they have rigid schedules or they have schedules. So most of the time my meals are more so like designed for the fuel of it rather than like the enjoyment. I'm lucky enough that I don't mind eating the same thing like over and over if I have to. So I can always count on my like chicken, like pulled chicken and rice with some veggies in it. Like that's some like my go-to. And I genuinely enjoy it because it is something that sustains me and like lets me do what I do in daily life. So I think that's what a lot of people should realize is that there is no secret. There is no one meal that's going to save you. There is no one supplement. There's no one type of workout. It is being consistent. Like consistency is key to most things. And with, I think, nutrition, this kind of is the same as like, yes, you need to fit there. You need to like hit your basics first. And that's where I kind of am, that most of my meals cover my actual nutritional and like developmental needs, and then whatever I have extra is just a fun thing. So food that kind of feels like safe, or what I don't remember what the question was, that feels
Gives you life and gives
give
you peace.
gives me peace, is any sort of like chicken rice veggies combo, because that is something that I always can depend on.
Yeah, one of our guests from earlier in the season, Big Shirley, talks about the concept of boy kibble.
That's it. Boy kibble. Boy, I make boy kibble every single day. Boy kibble is
It's the
my
best. You don't
life.
have to think too hard.
Okay, so hold on. At some stage, I'd love to do like a gainer cookbook. You can see the visuals. It's like an old Nana cookbook with like an apron and a bonnet, but it's me with full beard and like half moon glasses and everything. It's so stupid. We clearly need a section for boy kibbles. So, Adam and Shirley, anyone else who's listening, if you have a boy kibble recipe, send it in to thethickradio@gmail.com. We'll make sure to include it in the book.
So, Adam, what is next for you? What's on the horizon? What's new? What are you promoting at the moment?
So the most recent thing that I launched is the heavyweight handbook. I wanted to put out something that would be not an alternative to my coaching, but maybe for people that either don't want to or can sign up, or like usually like sometimes don't have the time to take on more clients, which is I like very privileged, I understand, but wanted for something like this to be out there for people who are either just starting out or people who are whatever part of their journey they're on, that would kind of concentrate all of the information on nutrition that I have kind of learned and then I have kind of incorporated in my practice, so that they can maybe learn that too and incorporate that in their first like gaining journey. I don't want to say gaining as like only the part of like gay gainers, but there are just guys that I talk to that are straight and that genuinely want to just put on mass because, again, masculinity, performance of gender, stuff like this, just want to get bigger and maybe don't want to do it in that like super toxic fitness style. So in the handbook, I talk about, again, stuff that we talked about here. A lot of it is just the basic health stuff, like why protein is important, why carbs are important, what they do, etc., why fiber is important, but also how to practically incorporate that into your life without it controlling your life, without it being too rigid. There's a whole section about how to incorporate fast food into your like diet and stuff without feeling guilty about it. Like that every food and every food group has a place in your diet. It's just about you kind of figuring out what your goals are and what your relationship to it is. So I think in short, that handbook should be kind of like a thing to heal your relationship with food just a little bit. And also, if you are someone who is curious about putting on size and doing it in a comprehensive way, the heavyweight handbook would be for you. And then down the line, I would actually like to write an actual book that would cover everything from mindset to gym to nutrition. That would be kind of like a guide on how to start out if you're just starting out, or how to adjust your goals based on that, kind of summarizing all of my experience and my knowledge into one. And I'm currently working on that right now, but that's probably going to be a little bit longer down the line. So currently the heavyweight handbook is out and I still accept new clients periodically. So my coaching is still available and my DMs are open, and I'm sure we can find an option that works for anyone that wants to maybe, or that was intrigued by my approach to this.
Fabulous. So I'm going to ask you really quickly, where can people find the handbook? But I'd also like for anyone who does not currently know Adam, where can the listeners find you online?
So everything like the touch point is my Instagram at ater.coach. I also have a website, Adam Teryngel or adamteryngel.com. I'm currently trying to get the ebook on the website, but there have been so many issues, and I'm doing everything I do. I kind of do myself, and I'm not the best at tech and stuff. And there's also like tax implications because like I'm here, but most of my clients are in the US and stuff. So I'm trying to make it as like most like easy for everyone while also like pertaining to all the tax codes and stuff. So the information, most of the information and any updates are going to be on my Instagram. But if you want to learn more about my style of coaching and another part of my business, and I don't really talk about it as much on Instagram, is I run workshops for usually corporate clients, but also just anyone else about lifestyle and mindset and body image and just generally mental health. So on my website, if you are someone that has a team that maybe could benefit from talks about self-acceptance or body image or healthy lifestyle that is not focused on weight loss, there is a whole section on those workshops as well. So website, but Instagram is going to be the first and foremost thing. How to get in touch with me and where to find all the latest updates. And as far as the handbook is concerned, right now, if you DM me about it, I will give you all the details that you need. Just DM me handbook so that I can find it, like in just one word, handbook, and I will get to you and send you all the necessary information.
Fabulous. Well, y'all, that is a wrap for now here on Thick Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a good review. If you liked this episode, please share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BlueSky at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram at ThickieMouse and Gromer at Orpheus.
And you can find me on Instagram and other fine social media platforms at the Captain Barra.
You can also find us on social media at Thick Radio or visit our website at thickradio.com.
Consider supporting the show by donating to our PayPal or by subscribing to our Patreon, where you can enjoy extra helpings, a behind-the-scenes conversation with this week's guest where nothing is off the table.
And if you send us a letter to thethickradio@gmail.com, we might just read it on the show.
That's all for now, so until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thick Radio is an independent production.
Artwork, media design, editing, and production by James Heinze.
With original theme music by CYMK.
I am having so much fun. I hope you guys I hope I'm not like droning on too
No,
much.
you're doing great.